Good morning, this is Sunrise. I'm Sarah-Jane Mee. Thank you for joining us. The man known as the fifth Beatle, Sir George Martin, has died at the age of 90. Ringo Starr confirmed the news earlier this morning. Well, in the last few minutes, his management company has released this statement. It said Sir George Martin passed away peacefully at home yesterday evening. The family would like to thank everyone for their thoughts, prayers and messages of support. He signed the Beatles in 1962 and with the band helped revolutionise the art of popular music recording. In a career that spanned 7 decades, he was recognised globally as one of music's most creative talents and a gentleman to the end. Well, Sky's Katie Spencer joins us now, and Katie, the tributes are all over social media. A lot of people waking up to this news, and Sir George Martin really was a legend in the music industry.
Yeah, a very sad loss today to be hearing this news. He made an incredible contribution to music, really changing the face of British pop music from his work with the Beatles. He produced virtually all of their songs, all of their greatest hits. He was responsible for really bringing them to life. He had this reputation because of the way he spoke, of being a bit posh, of being a bit of a toff, but the sort of posh boy who guided this working class band to fame. But in fact he was from very humble roots and actually was the son of a carpenter who ended up teaching himself how to learn the piano. His passion for music saw him go on to be the head of Parlophone Records, aged 29. Prior to finding fame with the Beatles, he'd actually produced a number of hit comedy recordings, working with some of comedy's greats like Spike Milligan and Peter Sellers. But it was his work with the Beatles that he was most famous for. He ended up signing them in 1962, and they'd actually approached a number of record labels and ended up being rejected by pretty much every other label. But there was something there that he saw. He said their first demo that they produced didn't seem up to that much, but there was something about those Lennon-McCartney harmonies that he recognised he could do something with, and he did go on and help the band to have 30 UK #1s, 23 US #1s, and it was these lavish arrangements that he helped to introduce to the band, to help to really transform the way they sounded. He was the man who suggested putting strings onto the song Yesterday. He played the piano on In My Life, and In a Day in the Life he was the one who was responsible for producing this beautiful orchestral climax that the song reaches. There's a fantastic story that has become quite legendary within Beatles history of the production of Strawberry Fields. John Lennon had decided that he liked one of the very early takes that they'd made of Strawberry Fields, but a couple of weeks later he also said he liked a second take that they'd made, and he asked George Martin whether or not they could mix the two together to have the start of one and the end of another. And George Martin turned to him and said, well, you're asking me to mix 2 songs that are in different keys and that are at different tempos. And in true John Lennon fashion, he turned to George Martin and he said, yeah, but you can fix it, can't you, George? And that's what he did. He went on to fix the song, and it turned out, of course, to be one of the greatest records ever made. He worked again with Paul McCartney in the 80s on Paul McCartney's Pipes of Peace album, and we've got a clip for you now of them talking about that process.
He was the first record producer I ever worked with the Beatles, and working with him now, it's very easy for me, because I know him so well. We've got so much in common. We know how we work. And it's like it's not very flattering to him, but I keep saying he's like an old shoe. Yeah. It's an old pair of shoes, you know. I like them. I just put them on, and there's no problem in it. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt a bit, you know.
And it wasn't just the Beatles, of course. He worked with some other greats within the music industry. He helped produce Cilla Black's biggest hit, Alfie. He'd worked with Jeff Beck, Bob Dylan, Sir Elton John, Jerry and the Pacemakers, and endless lists of some of the best musicians we've ever produced in this country. And he worked on numerous film scores as well, arguably making one of the best Bond themes ever made with Paul and Linda McCartney, Live and Let Die. He was a great talent and will be really greatly missed.
OK, Katie, thank you. Lots of people paying their respects and tributes to Sir George Martin on social media today. Ringo Starr has tweeted, God bless George Martin, peace and love to Judy and his family, love Ringo and Barbara, George will be missed.